This comes after a report by the Washington Post that Bob Mueller has agreed to limit the types of questions his team would ask the president. So should the president do it? Let's bring in Wendy Patrick, career trial attorney and political analyst, and Domenic Romano, founder and managing partner of the Romano Law Firm. And Domenic, should the president sit down and do this interview with Bob Mueller's team?
If he's a leader, if he's transparent, if he wants to set example for the nation, yes.
Wendy, how about it?
Absolutely not. This is very, very dangerous. Remember, the scope of the interview really is focused on those two areas, conspiracy and obstruction, the crime and the cover-up. This is one of those things where any misstatements, any opportunity to misspeak, tripping over words, the president could say something that contradicts either something he said in the past or something somebody else attributed to him. It's a minefield, it's too problematic, and one of the other things that I haven't heard mentioned enough is if this is the witch hunt the president says it is, to sit for an interview would give it an air of legitimacy that he might not want to do. He may rethink that on his own, but definitely too dangerous.
Domenic, I get that in terms of the politics, in terms of being a leader. Yes, of course, he should do it. We would like our president. It's the same reason why juries expect when somebody, a public figure, goes into a trial, they expect to see them testify even though they don't have to do it. But to Wendy's point, legally, doesn't it seem like he is walking into a perjury trap?
He is the chief executive of the United States. He has to put country ahead of person. If he has nothing to hide, if he did not commit a crime, he should be transparent and say so in front of the judiciary, which is a separate branch, right? It's an investigation. If he has something to hide, he should resign and face the consequences. If he wants to stay president, he should act like a leader and be transparent. And, you know, you'll point out things like every president since Richard Nixon has released their tax returns. This one hasn't. This one says he wants to testify, and yet there's been a lot of foot dragging by his legal team.
Wendy, I get the legal defense. Look, that this is a perjury trap. He would either have to admit perjury or he would be committing perjury. But to Domenic's point, doesn't the president owe a greater responsibility to the American people politically and in terms of this nation by honoring the process and participating in it?
Well, participating in the process doesn't mean agreeing to a sit-down, and it's not necessarily a perjury trap. Remember, perjury is the willful misstatements. One of the things we've seen about this president is his words are often fast and loose, sometimes without any intent to mislead. He just says things. That's why I call this dangerous. Perjury trap would be if you're going to actually catch somebody intentionally lying. So I understand that the administration and the detractors, they have two very different views on that. But in terms of your larger question as to what he owes to the American people, he has not fired the special counsel as he's been allowed to, as he could have done legally. He's letting this investigation run its course, which is his obligation to the American public. His personal participation in it should not be something that is either expected or advised, as we've already seen through his lawyers. And there's no indication that by sitting down with Mueller, he would end the probe. If anything, we have no idea what else Mueller is looking at or what further avenues of inquiry would come from the president sitting down and offering information.
A true leader does not hide behind these machinations of his legal team. And plus, constitutionally, he has a responsibility to uphold the Constitution and to uphold the laws of this nation. So why should he be exempt? That's what we learned in 1974. No one is above the law, not even President Trump.
And Wendy, if the president didn't want to be involved, then why has he been tweeting? Why has he been saying so much in the public record about the investigation, about Mueller, about the prosecutors working for him? I mean, if the president feels comfortable enough to say, okay, I'm going to criticize the investigation, shouldn't he be able to man up and be able to participate in the investigation?
Yeah, he's very frustrated with the investigation, and he certainly has been tweeting about it. And we've learned over the course of the last week that Mueller's actually looking and analyzing some of those tweets. So even that is dangerous. He's been unnecessarily vocal about his opinion on the investigation. That's true. But in terms of sitting down for a face-to-face, you know, I've been a trial lawyer for over 20 years, and it is easier said than done to get into a room under oath, not knowing exactly what you're going to be asked, and manage to choose your words carefully enough. And that's one of the things that, things as lawyers are afraid of, that he's going to say something that contradicts something he said earlier.
If he believes the investigation is illegitimate, then why doesn't he end it? Why doesn't he man up and say, okay, I believe it's a witch hunt, I'm going to end this investigation, whatever the consequences may be, so be it. he doesn't believe the process is fair, then end the process. Why won't he do that?
How? He's not going to fire the special counsel. He already said that. And if he
can
did, somebody
fire
else
the
would just
deputy
take
attorney
over.
general and put somebody in his place who will do it for
Somebody
him.
else would continue the investigation. And there's nothing about him sitting down with Mueller that guarantees in any way, shape, or form that would end the investigation. As I said earlier, I think his legal team is worried that might prolong the investigation.
Doesn't this just make the point that he's unwilling to take an action, so he's trying to have it both ways?
He's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. On one day he's ready to testify, bring it on. The next day, let's shut the whole thing down. Which is it? If he's got nothing to hide, he's going to be transparent. He's going to set an example, right? He's the leader of the country.
But remember, Dominic, that's what he wants to do. He wants to he believes that if he could have an opportunity to sit down with Mueller and his investigative team, he could convince them that he had done nothing wrong. The president's lawyers are worried about tangentially him misspeaking, making misstatements, doing something else that could be lying under oath. Those are the two. So to Dominic's point, the president has said he really wants to speak to Mueller, but he also wants to make sure he follows the judgment of his legal team. That's what we've been talking about for the last 8 months.
Wendy Patrick and Domenic Romano, thank you both so much for coming in. Interesting discussion. We'll see what the president does perhaps in the next couple of weeks. Just ahead, you may